The Forgotten Town, a true urban legend story. Part 1, The Road That Disappears. It started as a shortcut. Alex and his friends, Emma, Jake, Ryan, and Lisa, were heading home from a weekend camping trip. It was late, and the highway was packed with traffic. That's when the GPS suggested a back road, an old route through the countryside that would shave nearly an hour off their trip. A dirt road, winding through dense trees. At first, it felt normal, but after 20 minutes, things started to change. The trees grew taller, their branches reaching overhead like skeletal hands. The air felt colder, almost unnatural. The road signs they passed were rusted, the words barely legible. Then their GPS glitched out. First, the map flickered, then the entire screen filled with static before the device shut off completely. "What the hell?" Jake muttered, tapping the screen. "Nothing. We should turn back," Emma said, her voice uneasy. Before Alex could respond, the car's headlights illuminated something ahead. A sign, old and rusted, barely hanging onto a bent post. The words, though faded, were still visible. "Welcome to Black Hollow." The problem? This town wasn't on any map. Part 2, the watchers in the windows. The town was silent, too silent. The streets were empty, no cars, no people. The buildings stood like forgotten relics from another time. Old diners, a barbershop, a church with shattered stained glass. "Where is everyone?" Lisa whispered. But it wasn't the emptiness that made their stomachs turn. It was the houses. Every single home had its windows covered with newspapers. Old yellowed pages, some dating back to the 1920s, others from just a few years ago. The headlines were disturbing. "Family of 5 missing, search continues. Travelers disappear without a trace. Girl found in woods, her mouth sewn shut." Ryan took a step closer, squinting at the windows. That's when he saw it. A shadow moved behind the newspaper. He staggered back. "Something's in there." Alex turned. Through the thin gaps in the paper, figures stood motionless, watching. Silhouettes, tall, unmoving. One of them lifted a hand. Part 3, the Whispering Forest. "Let's get the hell out of here," Emma said, backing away. They turned toward the car, and it was gone. The road they'd driven in on, gone. Nothing but an overgrown dirt path leading into the woods. Lisa screamed. "We parked right here." A sudden gust of wind blew past them, rustling the trees. But it wasn't just wind, it was whispering. Low, guttural murmurs moved through the air, forming words. "They see you. They remember." The whispers came from the trees. Dozens of old dolls hung from the branches, their glass eyes reflecting the dim streetlights. Some were missing limbs. Others had stitched mouths. Then they saw the carvings. Deep into the bark, names were scratched. Dozens of them. Some were faded, others fresh, too fresh. Then they found their own names. Part 4, the town's secret. They ran down the main street, past the abandoned buildings, until they reached an old town hall. The wooden doors groaned as Alex shoved them open. Inside, the air was thick with dust. Rows of rusted filing cabinets lined the walls. Papers were scattered across the floor. Emma picked one up, coughing at the dust. It was a missing persons report. The name, Jason Turner, last seen on Route 9. Another, Rebecca Moore, last seen entering Black Hollow. Then she found the photograph, an old black and white image. It showed a group of travelers standing in front of the very building they were in. But there was something wrong. Behind them, hidden in the shadows, were figures, hollow, featureless faces. Jake flipped the photo over. "Once you enter, you belong to them." Part 5, the vanishing town. A scream shattered the silence. The walls trembled. The ground shook. "The town's changing," Lisa cried. They ran outside, but Black Hollow was different now. The buildings were crumbling, their wood rotted and blackened. The streetlights flickered, casting eerie, shifting shadows. Then they noticed the windows. The newspapers had fallen away, and behind the glass, people, or what was left of them. Their mouths were sewn shut, black stitches crisscrossing their lips. Their skin was pale, their eyes frozen in silent horror. One of them lifted a trembling hand, and then, in perfect unison, they all turned to look at Alex. Part 6, the last survivor. They ran, but the town was collapsing. Jake tripped. Something dragged him into the darkness. Lisa screamed. Her body pulled into the earth itself. Ryan was yanked backward, his scream cut off as the shadows swallowed him whole. Only Alex and Emma remained. They sprinted toward the last remaining road, but suddenly, Emma's hand slipped away. Alex turned. She was gone. The town behind him faded into mist. The buildings crumbled. The figures in the windows stared. Then, nothing. Silence. Alex stood on an empty highway, alone. Epilogue. The cycle continues. The police didn't believe him. "There's no town called Black Hollow," they told him. "It doesn't exist." He searched every map, Nothing. Weeks passed. The nightmare started, the whispers outside his window. Then one morning a package arrived, no return address. Inside was a single newspaper. The front page showed a photo of him and his friends standing in front of the town hall. The headline read, "New travelers arrive in Black Hollow. The cycle continues." Alex dropped the paper. His hands trembled. He turned to the mirror, and behind him a shadow stood, watching.